be reviewing the very first episode of Doctor Who. I'm not talking about the 2005 continuity first episode. I'm talking about the 1963 episode, The Unearthly Child, which came on in November. Forgive me, I don't know the exact day. I think it was around the 24th, but it came on in November. So let's start the video. In this episode, we are introduced to a girl named Susan. Now, Susan is the Doctor's granddaughter. That's right, granddaughter. If you didn't know she was his granddaughter, where have you been? Have you seen the classic era Doctor Who episodes? If you have not, click off this video, go watch some classic Doctor Who. It's wonderful. Even if you haven't seen the classic Doctor Who, you should know who Susan is. She's been mentioned in the 2005 and up episodes. Maybe not like her name-wise. I have to go back with her name. But she has been referenced most recently in The Rings of Akaten. Now, I wasn't a big fan of this episode, but they did mention her. Clara asks the Doctor, where have you been here before? And he says, yes, once with my granddaughter. Susan has two teachers that we are introduced to, Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright. These teachers are curious about Susan and decide to follow her after school and see where she goes. So, Susan leaves, the teachers leave, they follow her. Susan goes to a junkyard. The teachers proceed into the junkyard, and Susan enters what? Well, a blue police box. Like this one. So, Susan goes into the police box, and the teachers don't know what to think. The teachers knock on the police box. I believe they knock. Yeah, they knock. I'll have to go back and watch it if they didn't knock, but I believe they knocked. And the Doctor answers, or I believe he answers. Either the Doctor answers the door, or they don't knock, and the Doctor comes around the corner. But something happens, they meet the Doctor. Alright, so they meet the Doctor. The Doctor says, what are you doing here? They say, we're looking for Susan. The Doctor says, I've never heard of Susan. This argument goes on and on until Susan hears them, and she yells, and they hear her voice, or she yells something, and they hear her voice, and then we know she's in there, and bunch of coincidences I'm not going to go into because I basically spoiled the beginning of the episode doing this review, but they become the Doctor's companions. Ian Chesterton, Barbara Wright, and Susan become the Doctor's companions, and they go off on adventures together. This is a collection of, they called it a serial. It's multi-episodes. This is the first serial. And they basically get in the TARDIS and they go off to the caveman days. The pre-caveman days. And it's very, very, very interesting from there. This episode is fantastic, for crying out loud. It launched 50 years worth of a show. And I believe 3 spin-offs. I want to say 3. I think the first spin-off had to do with Canine, the dog. I've never seen that spin-off. The second spin-off was Torchwood. Torchwood, great. One of the best shows. And Torchwood is actually an anagram of Doctor Who, which is very, very cool. And then the third spin-off it launched was the Sarah Jane Adventures. So overall, I hope you watch this episode. If you are a Doctor Who fan, you will enjoy it simply because it's the very first Doctor. If you've already seen it, good for you. If you haven't seen it and you're not a Doctor Who fan, watch it. It will get you hooked on the show. We're going to end this review. I'm going to go, and